All right, so let's get into the crypto army and what are they up to? We'll break it all down for you guys today. Senator Elizabeth Warren has been active. You guys are going to love this. Don't miss it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, and that is Tangem. If you guys are looking at self-custody, this video is the one for you. Self-custody, wallets, Tangem is your place. Make sure and visit their website. Just jump right over there. Hit the Get Tangem button up there on the top right. Get the 3-card set. This will set you on your track to go into self-custody for yourself, so you don't have to hold all of your coins over there on exchanges where they could be a risk. So just take that step, and it does help the channel out. So click the link down below. Let's get into this first clip. This is Senator Marshall. And Senator Marshall is interesting because of his involvement in the banking industry. And this is an interesting clip that went viral. Listen in.
Senator Marshall serves in the United States Senate on the committees of Homeland Security, Budget, and Agriculture.
I think it's important that you get to know a little bit about who I am and my background. I bought into a bank, became a bank board member. One of the topics I was asked to discuss was legislation that Senator Elizabeth Warren and I have offered up as well in the cryptocurrency realm. You couldn't find two people probably on different political spectrums of conservatism and socialism. And in general, I believe in that light hand of the federal government. But we travel across the country, and I typically would say within 3 sentences, those briefing officers are telling us about the role of cryptocurrency, that it's used, whether it's in cyber attacks or frauds, human trafficking, sex trafficking, or terrorism, that crypto is the currency, the tool that those criminals are using.
All right, so a couple of things he does hit on, and it's interesting the parity, I guess, here between crypto and how Senator Warren and Mr. Marshall are really kind of taking this to the next level. And this is where it gets into the bill that was written. Listen into this clip.
So due to these emergency threats, I thought there was a need for the federal government to step up with some type of regulation, and Senator Warren and I have authored the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act. Now, what I did, so when Senator Warren presented that legislation to us, the first thing we did is we went to the American Bank Association and said, help us craft this. I think that by doing that, it gave us a lot of buy-in and a lot of support. Mr. Nyman said basically, in his opinion, crypto is only a tool for criminals. That's about all I know about crypto, okay? It really is.
All right, so you can see this is setting up for a very interesting ploy that is involving the American Bankers Association. And the ABA, here's their wiki page. Nicholas also reorganized the ABA's political engagement strategy. This is basically ABA he's talking about there in that last clip. And basically what they're saying is that they're endorsing Republicans and Democrats, both sides of the House, that essentially understand and appreciate the critical role, which I like, that banks play in the economy. So this is basically, yep, this is it. This is who's funding this. When you look at Senator Warren and some of the sponsors that are in this bill that he's referencing, there you have Lindsey Graham, Joe Manchin, and there's Mr. Roger Marshall. So this starts to lay up a few points that I think are very critical of how they're attacking crypto. And what's interesting is there is a lot within this that aligns it in a way that kind of just says these guys are just, this is a prop up. So I want to kind of go to another clip here that breaks into how the Digital Chamber of Commerce responded, because this has been a recent hit on this. Let's go to this clip.
This legislation is nothing less than an effort to kill cryptocurrencies in the US, and it's a part of her larger agenda to pave the way for a central bank digital currency. We cannot underestimate her efforts. They've already gained the support from almost 20% of the US Senate. This is the same industry who spends up to $100 million a year lobbying Washington. Bankers like Jamie Dimon.
I've always been deeply opposed to crypto, Bitcoin, etc. You pointed out the only true use case for it is criminals, drug traffickers, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance. If I was the government, I'd close it down.
Okay, well, that's what we're going to talk about.
While Jamie Dimon is testifying in front of Congress in favor of Elizabeth Warren's bill that would ban Bitcoin, his company is operating its own blockchain network that does over $1 billion a day in transactions. This is yet another example of the regulatory capture that is far too common in Washington, D.C. Make your voice heard today. Don't let Congress ban crypto.
All right, so with that said, the client's lobbying on Digital Asset Money Laundering Act of 2023. You got Filecoin, Blockchain Association, Digital Currency Group, etc. And then guess who else is down there? National Nurses United and also AARP are in there. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is this right here. According to the Federal Trade Commission in 2022, over 53,000 people reported losing over $1.4 billion in crypto scams. This, of course, is talking about pretty much our senior citizens. Now, the question is this true? And I think that's the factor that you have to play into this. So if you continue to look down at some of the data, all right, so in this report, further in this report, the Consumer Sentinel reports, this is about older adults, basically 44% of fraud reports filed in 2022. No mention of crypto. All of this is about 1.6 billion, but not in crypto and cash. So if you look, or potentially cash. You look over further in some of the reports here, 2021, this is when crypto was at its heyday. Through March 31, 2022, about 1.1 billion was reported to the FTC as a loss, fraud originated on social media. Other than that, 39% was reported as paid using cryptocurrency. And then what was following that? Bank transfers, 20%. And then wire transfers, 9%. So 29% for banks, and then another 8% that did not indicate payment methods, probably banks as well. So in essence, banks were the leading cause of a lot of these frauds. And yet at the same time, they're not asking to take out banks, they're asking to reduce the exposure on crypto. I want to go to a couple more clips here. This is the ABA on where these scams are coming from. Listen in.
Paul Benda is the Senior Vice President of Cybersecurity and Risk at the American Bankers Association, and he says that paper checks are one of the financial system's weakest points.
Would you say that every single bank is experiencing this right now?
I think that would be a legitimate statement.
Banks reported nearly 250,000 cases of check fraud nationwide. But by 2022, that number skyrocketed to nearly 460,000 cases. That's an 84% increase in just 1 year.
It's concerning.
We also see claims by the crooks that they're getting help from what they call innies, or insiders at the banks and the Postal Service, who are helping those gangs get away with it.
So clearly banks a big part of this. Let's go further into this with another bank. This is Wells Fargo. Listen in.
For Ashley Willis, the shock and awe came in the form of these text alerts that appeared to be from Wells Fargo.
How much did you lose?
It was a total of $55,000.
Now she's fighting to get her money back.
This woman is not your typical victim. She is a tech-savvy millennial.
I've spoken with Wells Fargo in the past where they needed to confirm my identity.
That single text message she responded to instantly initiated a wire transfer of just over $4,200. Every penny that was in her checking account.
And unfortunately, online wire transfers also have fees associated with them, so I was charged wired fees.
Wells Fargo's response to Galloway reads in part, "You are responsible for online wires, whether or not actually authorized by you. We are unable to reimburse you and have closed your claim."
Well, this teacher had just finished classes for the year when the imposters struck. In the middle of the scam, she actually drove to a Wells Fargo branch hoping to stop the thieves. Instead, she says the bankers told her they were too busy to help.
Complete and utter panic.
And pleaded with bank employees to stop those wire transfers fast, but to her shock, no one would help.
I'm sorry, we're all busy. We're backed up with appointments back to back. You need to go to another branch, but we can't help you here.
Too late. It was gone. Wells Fargo denied Ann's claim for reimbursement and called her to say she authorized the transaction.
He was just like, no, sorry, Wells Fargo would never call you. And I said, you just called me from Wells Fargo.
All right, so I want to go to another clip. This again, also Wells Fargo, biggest scenario that happened with this bank. Listen in.
If you deposited money with Wells Fargo Wednesday or Thursday, you may want to check that it's there. Customers say deposits they've made vanished.
There was no deposit at all.
Wells Fargo sent her an email that they received her request and would respond in 10 business days.
And I just don't trust Wells Fargo anymore.
But a similar glitch happened for customers back in March. They actually found a guy that this happened to in both instances. And understandably, he's like, all right, I think I'm done with this bank. She'd earlier been told Wells Fargo could send her a letter to give to her creditors. That too has not arrived. She said, quote, there is simply not enough funds without that deposit to cover them all, talking about her bills. I simply cannot live without my funds now. It screws up your credit. It makes it, and once it's just, it can be a total cascading effect.
Wells Fargo Bank has announced, though, they have fixed the glitch that caused customers' direct deposits to disappear from their accounts. The customers won't get the money back. They just changed the word glitch to fee.
Ooh. All right, so of course the biggest senator out there that is supporting the banking system, of course, Elizabeth Warren. And if you look at some of her other contributors out there, Google, Apple, so she's well funded here on the efforts. This is going to be a big one in terms of the challenge that is facing the crypto market. So it's one of those things that will continue to, and you should be reaching out, by the way, to your senators, congressmen, et cetera, and letting them know how you guys stand in terms of crypto in general. Just to look at the amount of penalty records. This is the banking penalty records here. And I want to show you something. This is kind of interesting. Guess who number 2 is right there behind City National? Coinbase. Yeah, Coinbase is getting fined more than everybody else. Basically, it's on anti-money laundering issues. Then if you scan down here, here's Wells Fargo, Americans with Disabilities Act problem, a $10,000 fine. And then another one, banking violation, $67 million fine, then a $30 million fine. So all of these banks getting fined much less than what we're already seeing in crypto. So you clearly see that there's a lean in on where these senators and lawmakers, 1, are funded, 2, have special interest, and of course now are acting within the ecosystem of banking along with this. This is an interesting tweet right here. This is Miss Warren going back in here, and she's basically saying, hey, crypto companies are spending millions building an army of former defense lawyers. This was a whole tweet that went viral. And then guess what? She got fact-checked right there by X that says cryptocurrency is objectively less than 1% of monetary illicit activity. There's nothing supporting the claim that it could threaten national security, cash and traceable, etc. Ooh, what a diss there. Elon is at work. Let's go into another clip here. I think you guys will find interesting. And this is talking about the surprise bill for crypto that actually passed. Listen in.
Deploying American Blockchains Act of 2023. Tell us about this bill.
Yeah, it's kind of came out of nowhere. So this is a bipartisan bill coming out of the House. And so what this bill does is it sets up the United States to be the preeminent leader on blockchain technology. It directs the Department of Commerce to really study the technology and figure out how the U.S. can lead and what are the different use cases for blockchain, probably that we may not talk about a lot, but outside of the financial services space. Where can blockchain be used for healthcare, for supply chain, for digital identity? So a really awesome bill to come out of House Energy and Commerce, and it moved 46-0. So a bipartisan bill that got unanimous support. So this is a nice little win before the end of the year. This is a completely standalone effort. I'm hoping it moves in a package of some other House Energy and Commerce bills this year.
This is a good sign. Bipartisan, pretty much a slam dunk, and it came out of nowhere, and it's now supporting crypto. So there are some wins that are coming. The other thing, of course, is the F.I.T bill. This is stablecoins, et cetera, that the question is when they will pass. Let's go back to another clip from Cody and listen in.
Do you anticipate, though, those two bills, the F.I.T and the stablecoin, to be potentially voted on maybe in Q1 of 2024? And does Patrick McHenry's announcement of his retirement affect that in any way?
Fingers crossed, Q1 2024. All signs point forward to Q1 2024. So I'm really targeting the February-March timeframe. Once those appropriations debates and battles are kind of set with, and then the government hopefully is funded, then we can move to other legislative priorities. And everything says, including Patrick McHenry and French Hill, Q1 2024. I think the beauty of the retirement, even though we're sad to see him go, it's not until January 2025 when he will leave, so at the end of next year. But he's motivated and he wants to move these bills. These are his babies. And I would be very surprised if Patrick McHenry, who's done an excellent job in Congress in building consensus, if he is not able to whip support for these votes. And then you've got the whip himself, Tom Emmer, supporting these. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see these bills, the FIT bill and the Clarity for Payment Stablecoins Act, get a vote and pass the House in March, I would say is my best bet in 2024. Fingers crossed. I know it's going to happen. People are going to see this and that they're going to circle on their calendars like March 1st and like, what the heck, Cody?
I like it. Listen, I think Cody's right. He's been on our show before, and he's a great supporter of what's happening out there in the market. But definitely good news and bad news. The fact is that we're fighting back. There's a lot happening within the ecosystem and of crypto in general. Kudos to Coinbase. I think all their efforts. We'll hear a lot more also on the motion to deny with Coinbase. All of this kind of playing into early Q1 for next year. So all of this, stay tuned right here. We'll cover more of this in the coming episodes. If you're not part of the Diamond Circle, make sure and get in right now. It's one of the greatest places to catch additional content. Catch me out there on X, @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.